Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our April meeting. I think it's April. I was off a little bit on my last slide, but we got it fixed.
It's raining.
Okay.
It's April, right? It's raining, so it's got to be April.
Yeah, that's true. And I wonder who fell for an April Fool's joke this year. No?
We're too old to
We're too old. We're too old for our kids to try and play jokes on us. Yeah.
Or we haven't realized yet.
I had a girlfriend who sent me this wonderful ad, and it's from Swiss Chalet, and it's a chalet sauce fountain. And it was a video showing people dipping stuff in this fountain. And then underneath it said, "You didn't really believe this, did you?" But it sounded like a good idea. So,
Well, you got our new logo up there, Nancy.
wait. Okay, this is our agenda for the evening. 2 seconds to absorb. And is there anyone here for the very first time? Okay. I'm going to ask you to stand up, not to center you out, but to actually get your name and the families you're researching, because you might have a cousin here in the audience. You may not, but you might. So I'm going to start with the lady, the blonde in the back.
My name is Jane Wilson. I'm researching mostly the Bracken family, but also through that Yake, Lindsay, Lougheed, and Lynn.
Bracken, Yake, Lindsay, Lougheed, and Lynn.
Yeah.
Bunch of L's.
Yeah.
Okay. And beside her,
Teresa Petrie. I just actually came out because it sounded interesting, the topic on farming, the talk on farming. So,
well, I'm glad you saw it, and I'm glad you're here.
yeah, but if anybody's related to Petrie, no relation to Robin, or I'm not that sure. So I can say that here, maybe you'll get it.
And the couple in the back.
I'm Gabriel Bray, it's my husband Gordon Bray, and we basically came out for the same reason. We saw the ad in the paper about the farm talk, and that's why we're here.
Awesome. And I heard you'd phoned. My program person's phone number got put in the advertisement, and she said she'd had several calls today. So welcome to everyone who's come out to try us for the first time. And Barb.
Barb Guerrero, just moved to Whitby, so I've joined this branch. And my mother was American, so I've got lots of people around Detroit, Iowa, that kind of thing. But in Canada, Garrow, Greaves, Collins, Bennett, Cutting, Tunky.
Okay. She's not here tonight, but Deb Wilbur is the
I think I did meet her at one of the times as well. I'll have to talk to her again.
And I'm not going to be able to even remember all of those. We'll start with Garrow.
Okay.
And Tunky, you said?
Tunky.
Tunky. That's a
How do you spell
funky
it?
name.
How do you
That's
spell it?
different, yes.
T-U-N-K-Y,
K-E-Y.
usually.
Oh, it's probably
T-U-N-K-E-Y.
spelled 10 different ways.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of good news. We have a new logo. And I hope you like it, because we're not going through that process again. And after all these, what's been 5, 6, 7 years that Karen has been volunteering, Karen Church, our secretary, has let us know that she's got to stand down due to some health concerns. So we are looking for a volunteer. If there's anyone who would be willing to take the minutes of our meeting. It's 2 meetings a month. You get the time off in the summer. And we're a great bunch, so it's a good way to come out and meet some research buddies / genealogy advisors. Steve's always a fountain of great places to go searching next. So we'd welcome you on our committee. So, as you heard, we're downsizing or trying to, and we are moving. So they're welcoming us at the Northminster United Church, which is the corner of Simcoe and Roslyn. We are taking over the room called the board room, which they haven't used in 10 years. So Steve went over there today, and they're stripping the floor and putting down a new coat of wax for us. I hope it's dry by the time the movers come tomorrow morning. So, because we're moving, we've got basically a 6-week closure on the office and the library. The new hours starting in May 18th. The second and third Fridays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. is when the library and office will be open. And I have to add, by appointment at other times, depending upon availability of the church itself, because they have not given us a key to the outside doors. Okay? So if we do have to do it in an off time, we have to pay for security. So. And speaking about the church, I just thought I'd throw this in there. They've got a spring rummage sale in 10 days. Okay? Friday and Saturday, next, like a week from this weekend.
So they'll be open that day, is it?
Yes, they'll be open that day. But we won't have the stuff on the shelves yet.
I won't be there yet.
No. And I have some Tony news. Now, Tony stands for the Ontario Name Index, which is a project, a provincial project, where all our publications, we're trying to index them and get them all into this name index with the goal of having an every name index for someone who came, stayed, moved on from Ontario or Canada. There's a lot of Americans out there whose ancestors came from Canada, which at that point in time meant either Upper or Lower Canada. So hopefully this index will be useful to them. And I have to say a note of thanks to our indexers. So Bob Halfyard, Karen Church, Joan Mullen, Alan Richards. We can certainly use more, so if you're interested in indexing, let me know. So at this point, I will shut up and I will introduce Jane. And I'm just gonna read her, if I can get close enough to my computer, her summary of her talk. So when I heard life on the farm, you don't think very much of it, but we think of it as a traditional occupation, something that hasn't changed very much, but that's not and never really has been true. Farmers had to react and adapt to changing conditions, climate, technology, economics, new markets, and new competitors. Some farmers did more than adapt. They set out to be the most productive by innovating with new techniques, processes, products, and marketing. So farm journals and business records survive in many archives. So at that point, I'll shut up, and I'd like to introduce Jane McNamara, a longtime friend and colleague from the Toronto branch. And she, as you all know, I'm very big on education. Jane's the one who got me started on that by hosting and setting up a lot of the Toronto branch education programs down at the Ontario Archives, back when it was in downtown Toronto. So, without any further ado, please welcome Jane McNamara.
Thank you, Nancy. At least she didn't blame me for getting her involved in it.
No, I've been involved for 15 years before that. She made me better at it.
Let me just get the Zoom here. Oh, you already got the Zoom. Thank you.
5-minute break.
And there's some refreshments, yeah. There's some refreshments at the back, and don't forget to look at the extra copies of the library stuff that we'd like people to take.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene. Is that off? Turn it off.
Okay, we'll reconvene now and continue on. And before we continue, Anne wants to say a couple of words about this website, Our Roots.
I know that in the past, we've had, I think, a mini talk about Our Roots a number of years ago, and it's a website run by the University of Calgary, and it collects old history books from Canada. So they're mostly books about townships or villages or small towns and things like that. And so there's lots of information about farmers in them. Some of them are those books where they have gone around and just interviewed all kinds of people and put in whatever they said. But unfortunately, right now, the university has decided to take the site down. It's too bad because it's all indexed. You know, you can put in a surname and it'll give you a list of which books out of the thousands of books they have that surname in them. But they are going to be putting it up again. It's migrating, I guess, from one platform to another, and they haven't exactly said when it will be up, but I'm waiting because I use that site a lot. So if you're trying to look up something on Our Roots and you can't find it, don't worry, it will be back.
Okay, thank you, Anne. B. We have mail.
We have some. Mail normally comes in by snail mail, which is the local mail, or it comes in by email. And lately it's been all coming by email. So what I'll do is I'll read a date, and then I'll read the content, and then I'll read the date again, because if you're interested in it, I keep it by date. So the first one came in on the 23rd of March this year, and it came in by email, and she says, I'm searching Noah Taylor, who died in Darlington, Durham County in 1879. He was born in Orange County, New York, and she doesn't really know his father's name. She thinks it's Clark Taylor, and his mother's maiden name may have been Lee, because the first child was Milo Lee Taylor, born in 1827. She does not say where they were born. He did marry in Massachusetts, so they moved up here later, obviously, but she doesn't know when. She thinks that he may have been it might have been in the late 1800s. Then the second one is James Kidd, born Derry, Northern Ireland, 1720, died 1760 in Tuscometh Township near Cookstown, Ontario. Married a Maria Morgenstern in Pennsylvania, born 1720, died in Germany 1830, Hanover, Pennsylvania. They had a son, William Kidd or Kit, and she would like to know which local sources or of the local residents or death records for Noah and James, if possible. And it's not a her, it's a him, Charles Mackenzie. He's a genealogist in New York. And again, that was on the 23rd of March. The next one came in on the 12th of March, and it is concerning the Ney family. There's a cemetery in Durham region called the Ney and Staples Cemetery, and she's interested in purchasing that cemetery and all of the, interested in the people that are listed on it. She actually printed out our cemetery listing from Tony on it. And that's,
Then she has everything.
she has it, but she wants the actual cemetery listings.
That's it.
Oh, that is?
That is.
Okay, well, we have to
That's it.
send that back to her then. Tell her that's everything.
Deb-
Okay, I'll
Deb's
send it.
replied to
I'll tell, I'll,
I think Deb has done.
Deb replied to it, okay. And there's one on the 12th of March. It came in, it says, can you send me the death date of my great-grandmother's sister? Her name is Nellie Florence Theobald. She was born in 1871 in Matilda, Ontario, and she is alive in 1946, and she was maybe alive in 1946. It comes from Ronalie Farideau, and again, that was the 12th of March. There was another one that we had back in July, and she finally got back to me because she wanted to know information about her grandfather, who was a British home child, but she didn't give us his name, when he came, or anything. So she got back to me. She said he was Albert Wallace Campbell, would have been roughly about 11 or 12 years at his placement in Coburg. Ship that he came on was Dominion in 1905 in August, and he was a Barnardus. She doesn't spell it right. I think it's Bernard. Yeah. I do not have information on him being in Clarington and base information, and do not need that information. He did spend some time in Durham, Coburg, and I was hoping to locate the information where he worked in Coburg only. Thanks for any info. And I think that
We should send her to the Lakeshore Genealogy first.
yeah, Joanne Atkinson actually was replying to her. Okay, that's it.
Technically under Kawartha branch.
Is it?
Coburg is, yes. Oh, okay. Oh, I know Joanne. Sheila. $5. This is the brief business portion of the meeting. Very brief. Yeah.
Okay, so for the treasurer's report for the past month, the balance of our current account is $5,244.03. The deposits were $893 and withdrawals $824.67.
So here are some details for our workshop day, our day of learning. That's going to be Saturday, June 23rd in Curtis at Faith United Church. Our topic is from DNA connections to database giants. The price is the same as last year, $35, which basically clears our expenses. It doesn't really put anything into our coffers. It includes the lunch if you register by June 8th. We've brought some bookmarks, actually. If you want to take one, please help yourself. And here are our topics and our speakers. So Sherilyn Bell is going to talk about ancestry in a tube, using DNA to pick up the genealogical trail. Nick, our very own Nick, is going to give us the ins and outs of Family Search, that's the website, and what's new. Ellen Mackey from Toronto branch is going to come and tell us about autosomal DNA, the next steps. You've tested, what do I do now? And then I'm going to do a very brief discussion comparing what I call the genealogy giants. And that's Ancestry, My Heritage, Find My Past, and Family Search. Just a brief one, brief comparison, and we're going to moderate a panel discussing those databases and some others that people should be aware of besides the genealogy giants. So I think it's going to be a very interesting day. We deliberately did not do a full day on DNA. We figured people would be too tired trying to comprehend it all, so we've broken it up with the genealogy giants. Speaking of which, My Heritage has the library edition available to OGS members. In the member zone, there's, I believe, no, it's not a coupon code, it's an actual purchase that you get from the OGS store on the website. It's $10, so that's a pretty darn good bargain. At this point, I'm going to call up Steve, who's going to do his short presentation. My April Fools, the Hilliard Dilemma.
She's going to do his tall presentation.
The tall person. I overdid it. That's quite possible.
Thank you. Well, I called this my April Fools because my ancestors are trying to play a joke on me. The Hilliard family stayed in one place for a couple of 100 years, which was very nice of them. But there is still a problem, and I'll show you why. Okay, this is a bit of the background. Ancestry, the company, has a wonderful collection of Northamptonshire parish records and bishops' transcripts, if they're available. And they're all available online, including the images. My people came from a place called, I'm not sure if it's Courtine Hall or Corton Hall, or probably they called it a lot of different things because they sure spelled it a lot of different ways. But the parish registers begin in 1538. And I cannot see any sizable gaps in the records. It looks like it's pretty thorough all the way through. Now, the early records were actually retranscribed in 1583. This page, or the clipping at the bottom here, you can see at the corner there, 1583 Corton Hall, June the 4th. That's when they were retranscribed. And below that it says, this register and book was begun the 17th day of November in the year of our Lord, 1538. So the records are back to 1538, but they're actually a lot easier to read because somebody transcribed them again in 1583, which was really nice of them. Although, let's just hope they were accurate. Oh, I know what I was going to say. And I just mentioned, let's just hope they were accurate. Well, it says that began in November. The very first entry is dated October. Okay, my ancestor, Jasper Hilliard. He married Frances Dunkley on the 1st of October, 1676, in Blissworth Parish, Northamptonshire. He was buried on the 14th of April, 1723, and he was followed by his wife on the 13th of November, same year. So I know when they married, when they died, I know their kids. I think it's a work in progress that Frances Dunkley was the Frances, I guess that's supposed to be Dunkley as well, Dunkel. If you sounded it the other way and changed the C to a K, then it's not too bad. But it does say daughter, so I'm sure both the sex. And she was baptized in 1649 in Stoke Bruern. I don't know how to say it, obviously. And she was born, or at least baptized in that parish. You can see there's another spelling of Hilliard, Jasper Hilliard, and Francis with the double F, and still has the I in there. And then Dunkley, they got CK in this particular record, so spelling was definitely not their forte. This is a little map of where the different parishes are. L is actually Corton Hall. The yellow is, and the yellow is in red. Yellow is Stoke Bruern, and the blue is Blissworth, where they were married. I can never tell whether to look at the screen or look at the little screen here. Okay. Now comes the fun part. Maybe if I could turn this slightly. That would be better. I know that the parents of my Jasper Hilliard were Jasper and Elizabeth. I know that Jasper Sr.'s parents were Raph and Margaret, also called Marjorie sometimes. I know that Raph's father was John. I know John's father was Thomas, and at the time of his death, his wife's name was Catherine. I don't know if she's actually the mother of all the children or not. She probably is, but can't tell. And I know Thomas's father was John Hilliard of Corton Hall. And the same thing there, his wife at the time of his death was Johanna. He wrote a will in 1526. So, what is my problem? I know all these people. Where's the joke? The April Fools. Well, Jasper Hilliard, two of them. One, 1637, his parents were Jasper Sr. and Elizabeth, née Bell. The other Jasper, born 1645, was the son of Jasper Jr. and Elizabeth, née Clark. A little bit of confusion there. Okay, Jasper's Sr., baptized 1594, was the son of Raph and Margaret Charlton. Jasper Jr., born 1595, was the son of Raph Sr. and Margaret. Either Pinberg or Pinsbrook, or that one's a tough one to read, and there's a lot of different choices out there. Guess what? Raph Jr., baptized 1560, was the son of John Sr. and Margaret Francis. Raph Sr., baptized 1555, was the son of John Jr. and unknown. They're all the same names, all the way back, pretty much. I don't know her name. Guess what I'm putting my money on? John Sr., who married in 1548 to Margaret Francis, was the son of Thomas. John Jr., who married about 1553, was the son of Thomas. Luckily, it's the same Thomas. And it is proven through Thomas's will that he had a John Sr. and a John Jr. So I do end up at the same point in time eventually, but I have a whole mess in between. And Thomas was the son of John, the one who died or whose will was written in 1524. So I have the John and the Thomas at the top, and then I have 3 question marks, and then I'm down to my Jasper. In conclusion, so the will of Thomas does confirm he had that son, John Sr. and John Jr., and I have a nicely written article that was sent to me about the habits of people doing that type of thing back in the 1500s, 1400s type of thing. As you come forward, they kind of drop that habit. Jasper Hilliard Jr. and his wife Elizabeth Clark, who had the son Jasper baptized in 1645, are the more likely ones to be the parents of my Jasper, who wed Francis, who was born about 1649. Although the other cousin still works out mathematically, we'll say. He still could be of the age to marry my Francis and to die, except he would be in his 80s when he dies instead of in his 70s, and he would be almost 40 when he was married instead of about 35. But it's still possible. So, and interestingly enough, some of the descendants of Jasper Hilliard and Francis Dunkley have adopted the spelling of the Hilliard name for their surname. That's how it seemed to evolve in the Corton Hall parish. So they're still playing jokes on me. I just threw all the crests across the bottom. I'm sure none of them actually apply to any of my family, but they look pretty. And that is how April has fooled me.
So, it's okay, okay. It was a little high there, Steve. Okay, last Wednesday night, 3 of us went to a very interesting evening. B and Dawn and I went and got our volunteer pins. Lori is a little on the shy side. And Lori, although I'm sure Steve invited her to come tonight, didn't come. So, Steve, would you like to come forward and receive Lori's pin for her? So, congratulations, Steve.
Can you do it? Not in the screen?
Not in the screen. Okay.
Watch the
Watch the chords.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just move a wee bit more. Sorry. Well,
Yeah.
there we go. I know we're picky.
Now, if you want, you could hand it to her and take her back, and I can put it in the slide for next month. I do know the feeling, but you can get over it. So there's still time to sign up for the Kawartha Branches bus trip to the Ontario Archives on Wednesday, April the 18th. There's the email address, and it's $40. And I'd like to announce Shaking Your Family Tree, which is put on by the Belleville Stake of the LDS Church. It's Saturday, April 28th. And if you register by the 15th, you get lunch. And Nick brought some bookmarks for that. Where'd you put them?
They're over here.
Over on that table. Great. And there's some of the topics. So that one looks interesting. I've read some military records. Sometimes it's the handwriting and sometimes it's the initials. They love initials for everything. So here's our meetings. We're set up to October. We've got a fish on the hook, hopefully, for November. And that will complete out our year with our usual December goodies meeting and show and tell. Marion Press is from Toronto Branch. She's going to come next month. Are you really finding it all when you search? So she'll be discussing search techniques. We have Danielle Manning from the Ontario Archives going to tell us about the archives in June. And in September we have Cheryl Levy, who is going to give us a really good case presentation on using the census to build a blended family. 2nd of October, that's going to be really good. You know how good Ted Barrett is. If you came to our Vimy one.
Except he's Ted Barris.
Barris? Okay. I'm embarrassed. Okay, Ted Barris. And I believe it's the 75th anniversary of the Dam Busters from World War II. So I'm sure he'll make it really exciting for us.
There is a Ted Barrett, he's my uncle.
Oh, well, apologize to him. I took his...
Or bring him down in October.
Or bring him in October.
Tell him he's doing a presentation.
Okay. Unfortunately, the DNA
Interest group meeting is canceled for April because of our move. Don't forget the odious webinar on Thursday night. It looks like it's a good one for cataloging your digital images. Works, let me see, it's the free Adobe Bridge program for Mac OS and Windows, and it's cultural panel to add titles, descriptions, and much more metadata. It can be used with digital from cameras or scanners, as well as images created in software and photographs of 3D heirlooms such as quilts and jewelry and furniture. So if you're thinking about making your photograph collection virtual, this will be the one for you to watch. So here's the contact information for our branch. The Facebook group is quite active and very interesting. I try and blog on most things, especially the meetings. And occasionally I'll put up what I think are good bargains or DNA sales or things like that. So check out our blog as well. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May 1st, as amended. I don't know why I put April 1st, but Tuesday, May 1st. I hope I got the right day and date. But that's Marion Press, and she's going to come out and talk to us on that topic. And on that note, I'll say good night and safe home.